I'm going to start it off. I'm going to turn things over to Lieutenant Brink. He's going to talk about a drug bust that we had.
Good morning. My name is Randy Brink. I'm a lieutenant with the Sioux Falls Police Department. I'm in charge of narcotics and oversee the Sioux Falls Area Drug Task Force. So I want to take a minute and talk with you about a significant arrest that we made last night on one of our investigations. So last night, with assistance from the South Dakota Highway Patrol, the Sioux Falls Area Drug Task Force executed a search warrant in the 3000 block of West Russell, which is a local hotel here in Sioux Falls. Just prior to us executing the search warrant, the driver, the renter of the room was stopped in a vehicle a short distance away. In a search of the car, we located multiple methamphetamine pipes, scales, and some other paraphernalia. We then executed the search warrant in the hotel room and then made a pretty significant seizure of what we presumed to be fentanyl. Inside the room, we located like 4 separate baggies that contained powder. In total, that was just under 27 grams of white powder, which again we presumed to be fentanyl. And then we located a pill bottle that contained over 50 pressed pills, which we believed to be fentanyl. Seizures of these size aren't common in Sioux Falls, nor do we ever want them to be common in our area. You know, Mayor Tenakin and Chief Burns were just up here recently talking about us focusing our efforts on methamphetamine, heroin, and fentanyl dealers, and we are. So successful investigations like this and seizures like these make a huge impact in our community. And this seizure alone, we took away hundreds of potential overdoses. Some of those could have been fatal. So the person that was arrested last night was Jacob Clayton Winters, W-I-N-T-E-R-S, and he's a 24-year-old Sioux Falls resident. And he was arrested for possession of a controlled substance with intent to distribute, possession of a controlled substance, possession of marijuana, less than 2 ounces, possession of drug paraphernalia, and then maintaining a place where drugs used, kept, or sold. So again, we just want to reiterate that this is, you know, pretty significant for Sioux Falls. We don't see seizures like this, nor do we want to. And again, we're trying to take away the fentanyl that's in our town. So, you guys have any? Yeah, it doesn't take very much fentanyl to either cause significant bodily injury or it could be fatal. Either in the powder form or the pressed pills, which we just seized. Again, this takes away hundreds of potential overdoses. So,
how much of the powder do you guys find?
Just under 27 grams.
Then how many of the pills?
Over 50.
Those are pretty significant amounts.
They are pretty significant. Again, we don't see the pills on the front side of our investigations very often, nor do you see the numbers like this. So again, it's a big deal for us.
And how many of the pipes did you guys find?
A couple pipes in the car.
What time was that last night?
It was early evening is when the investigation started.
What was the block you said it was in?
3000 block of West Russell.
Do you have the side street cross street off of that?
It's to the west of Louise. Sam might be able to help out with that. So.
Did you say his name one more time?
Sure. Jacob Clayton Winters, 24-year-old Sioux Falls resident.
Common spelling for his first name.
Yep. J-A-C-O-B, and Clayton is C-L-A-Y-T-O-N.
It was just him you guys found?
There's others that are involved in this investigation. We do expect more arrests.
What kind of tipped you guys off for this?
Some of our drug agents had received some information that Mr. Winters was potentially dealing, so that we started that investigation and ultimately ended up in a search warrant.
Is it common like these kind of cases to be operating out of like a motel or something like that? Or?
It's one common area. People will deal out of hotel rooms, residences, cars. It's a little bit depending on what they prefer. All right. Thanks, guys.
Okay. On the log, really just got one, I guess, sort of big thing. It's not as big as the drug bust that just happened with all the fentanyl, but we had a couple of other people were arrested for stealing catalytic converters. This began yesterday. We got called a little after 5 p.m. It was two an address on North Bonneville Place, which is kind of the northeast area. The person that called saw the vehicle park and saw a man and a woman walk away from that vehicle. Both of them were carrying bags, and they started heading into a wooded area. And basically down the hill from that property, it attaches to the salvage yard. And so that was pretty odd. They hadn't seen stuff like that before, so it was unusual. And so they ended up calling police. We had officers that got there that found these two people. They were in the process of cutting out catalytic converters from a couple of different vehicles. Initially, the people ran. The officers were able to catch them relatively short distance away. So once they sorted everything out, they did find the tools that the people were using. There was also some marijuana that was found, and they were both arrested for fleeing police, obstruction, possession of burglary tools, possession of marijuana and paraphernalia, tampering with a motor vehicle, petty theft, intentional damage to property, and trespassing. And this is another one we don't know that if they've been tied into any other catalytic converter thefts, but that's one of the things detectives will work on trying to determine.
Did they have like any converters that they had already taken?
There had been a few that had been cut off already, yeah. They didn't, when the officers got there and they took off running, they didn't take anything with them. They just left all of their tools and everything they had cut off. That all got left behind.
You know how many they had cut off, or you don't have a rough estimate?
Let me see if I have that. I believe it was 2 of them that they had cut off.
And they were caught kind of near that salvage yard from that.
Yeah, they ran from the salvage yard, and so I think at one point, let me see here, they ended up crossing the river at one point, but we had other officers that were coming to the area and they were able to catch them. So they didn't make it very far.
But they kind of started in that North Bonneville kind of area. Those were kind of
Yeah, so let me get that pulled up. The intersection. So the salvage yard is in the 2700 block of North Cliff Avenue. And it has an entrance off of Cliff, but it extends quite a ways back to the east. I mean, it's probably like half a mile that it goes back from the entrance. And so the car had been parked, or the vehicle they arrived in, I think it was an SUV actually, but that was parked in the 2800 block of North Bonneville Place. And so they just parked there, and then there's trees, wooded area. So they walked through the wooded area down the hill and basically entered the salvage yard on the back side of it. So they saw these people. They didn't know where they went, but that's what they guessed. And you know, this is exactly the type of thing that we've been talking about, especially with these catalytic converter thefts, is people calling when they see something. Now, this could have been anything. I mean, any number of different things, but it was unusual activity, and so we wouldn't have probably caught these people if it hadn't been for this neighbor that had called and reported it. So this is exactly what we want people to do. If they see something out of the ordinary, call police. We can come and check it out, and if it's nothing criminal, if it's nothing major happening, it's no big deal. But we'd rather people call us, and then we can investigate it. So in this case, we found these 2 people actually in the process of cutting off catalytic converters. They took off running, we caught them, and 2 more people that have been charged.
I suspect now that people saw something and people were cutting off their converters.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the message that we want out there is we want people to call. If they see somebody tampering with a vehicle, we want them to call. I mean, these catalytic converters don't have any serial numbers. There's nothing to tie them from one vehicle to another. And so relying on public's help is huge in this. And so when people see anything out of the ordinary, see somebody messing with a vehicle, whether it's their vehicle or somebody else's vehicle, probably give us a call. We can check it out from there and hopefully put a dent in some of these thefts of these catalytic converters and save people some money. Yep. So the guy, his last name is, I'll just spell it, Vital, Vital, I suppose, Vital. Middle, or first is Richard, Richard. Middle is Anthony, Anthony. And he's 25 from Sioux Falls. And the woman, her last name is Condon, Condon. First is Tumika. Middle is Richon, and she's 27, also from Sioux Falls. And the charges, fleeing police, obstruction, possession of burglary tools, possession of marijuana and paraphernalia, tampering with a motor vehicle, theft, petty theft, intentional damage to property, and trespassing.
And both of them got those same counts.
Yeah, both of them, all the same counts for both.
Was there a big amount of marijuana that for very
No, it was just a small amount of marijuana, and that was it was in the backpacks that they had brought, and it was a couple of pipes, so it was just the residue that was in the pipes. I don't know. The report doesn't say if they were under the influence. That's pretty much it for the log. The aggravated assault, that was a domestic, had a boyfriend, girlfriend. One was threatened with some scissors, no injuries from that. The burglary, we had a couple of garages and a couple of apartments that were entered, no arrests. The disorderly conducts or trespassings, the embezzlement was a car that was loaned out. The family offenses, we had protection order violations. The frauds, we had a couple of ID thefts, and then somebody altered a script. No arrests on any of those. The other larcenies were a couple of shopliftings, a package, some tires that were damaged. We did have one catalytic converter that was taken. That was a vehicle that was parked outside of a business. So I don't know if that was last night. It was reported yesterday, I'm sorry, the night before, but it was reported yesterday morning. But I don't have a time frame on when they thought that may have been taken. Yep, that is 46th and Western, which is the 3700 block of Southwestern.
He said that was over the lake report, though.
Well, they reported it yesterday morning. This was an online report, so a lot of times the dates don't get in there until the detectives have a chance to talk to them. So, but they noticed it yesterday morning, so I'm guessing it happened sometime during the night, sometime Monday night, Tuesday morning. The narcotics, the other stuff, aside from what Lieutenant talked about, nothing big from those. The sex offenses are both sex offenders that didn't change their address. Simple assaults were domestics, and vandalism, one was a car that was damaged, and the other was some graffiti. And that's all I have, unless you guys have anything else.
I got a couple questions for you.
Sure.
First, have there been any anti-Asian crime calls or incidents?
I haven't heard of any. Yeah, I mean, those... Yeah, I mean, the I suppose you could fill in the blank, whatever. I mean, they're pretty rare. That we've had some in the past, but it's been quite a while since I could think of anything. So and that kind of falls along with, like, hate crime as well, and we just don't see numbers of those at all. So I haven't heard of any issues, seen any reports about any anti-Asian I guess, I don't know what you call it, but anything along those lines.
And with the bomb threat that was called into Mitchell's courthouse, I believe, the other day, or yesterday, I think, finding the ordinance on Saturday here in Sioux Falls, has there been any communication between the two police departments about whether or not it's possibly a connection?
I don't know anything about the Mitchell one. I hadn't heard that. The ordinance that was found, I was talking with one of the members of the bomb squad yesterday. They're trying to still waiting to determine to find out if that's like live or if it was like a dummy or replica or something like that. So we don't know if it was actual ordnance and we've seen things like that in the past where somebody's found like a grenade and it turns out to be a training or a dummy grenade. So that's one of those things that's just have to wait to confirm that stuff. And so I'm sure if it turns out, then we'll be in communication with the people. But anything else? Okay, thanks.